you know,
Okay.
and now. Okay. Woo! One of those days, Motivation Monday, Technology Day. I'm so sorry that we're running a couple of minutes behind for anyone who's been hopped on to this live. My name is Kara Sewell. I'm with Paired Up, and I am here today to introduce you to a man that's going to change your life. He's at least going to give you some insight to help you feel better. Or at least the information, the tools that you need, and you do with them what you will. But without further ado, go ahead, Dr. Scott Hannen, and introduce yourself to everybody.
Oh, hey, I'm Dr. Scott Hannen, and I'm going to do exactly what you said. I'm going to try to help you get well.
Now let's give folks a little bit of a background if they're just joining us for the first time and they saw this, as they're scrolling through YouTube or something. What's your background? How did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. So it's been a long journey. I've done a lot of study. Obviously I'm a chiropractic physician, but I also completed an integrated medical degree in Capital University, actually, and then further continually trying to further the education in my profession. I also am board certified in internal diagnosis, also board certified in nutrition, and in the field of functional neuroscience or clinical neuroscience. You need about 300 hours for the board, and I have about 385 button seat hours. So kind of a plethora and an eclectic mix of things, but you can't learn too much about the body. And my passion has always been, studying the body down to the cell. Been blessed enough to have, two books in print that have, both become bestsellers, Healing by Design and Stop the Pain. And both of those books are directed literally cell by cell. How do we build a body to make it healthy?
So, and when we're talking about nanotechnology, which is what we're going to be talking about today, before we get to that point, what led you to go, okay, nanos? Like, how do you even get to that point? How did that come up? Where were you along the line of your career, of your nutritional wellness, that this idea came to be?
Yeah, very simple. So, here you are, you have to go through the sickest part of someone, which is their gut. And we have to go through that to get people well. So, like I'm holding an apple right here. You have to eat this apple or whatever the food may be. And by the time you eat that big substance, it has to be chewed down, broken down continually till it's on the microscopic level so the cell can even ingest it and use it for physical energy. Now, in doing that, there's a lot of processes, and guess what? It involves the sickest part of most people's body. So if they're not doing the job they should be doing, which most sick guts can't do properly, how are we ever going to get the proper nutrient breakdown, absorption? You have to feed a cell, cleanse the cell, and protect the cell to keep it alive and healthy. Well, how are we going to do those things if we can't get it the tools it needs? So always trying to get, we've been doing vitamins and supplements and compounds and extracts and herbals for years. And obviously those can make a dramatic change in someone's health. But my thought is, I also do, I have my injectables in IV. I have a license to do that as well. So, sometimes the gut's just too sick. We have to give them through either injection or through IV. We have to also give them nutrients. And we thought, well, gosh, what if we could just find a way to get those nutrients in the blood cell without having to go through those kind of extremes? And you could do it on a daily basis, because you don't want to be doing IVs and injections every day, unless you're trying to hit some kind of crisis moment, or if you're diabetic or something, you have to take insulin. But outside of that, for normal nutrition, how can we do that? Thus, the term nanonutrients came into existence. And nanotechnology started in the pharmaceutical companies, where they take nano just simply means breaking something down from a large particle to the minutest, smallest particle. So just to kind of put that in perspective in your head, if you try to break down a molecule, you can look at the human hair, picture about 100,000 times smaller than that human hair. We look at a red blood cell, it's at probably around 8 microns or so. It's probably going to be about 1,000 times smaller than that. So we're talking about shrinking them down so small that they go right through membranes, they go right through tissues, and they go right into the cells for nearly 100% absorption.
Well, and that's why I wanted to make sure that everybody knew what your background was, because this sort of technology is cutting edge. It's something that, I'd never heard about before. What can people expect? I know I have a couple of different things I want to share because there's 3 different ones I know you have on your website right now: Nano Energy, Nano Essentials, and then Nano Infla Ox. Which one do you want to start with? Because I'm going to pull it up so folks can see it.
Yeah, so the first one I'm going to start with is probably the one that everybody wants to talk about, and that's energy.
Mm-hmm.
I just think we should start there, because if I ask anyone across the board whether they think they're sick or whether they're not, even if they tell you they're healthy, everybody wants more energy. So the problem is everyone wants to go to a drink, or they want to go to a coffee, and the problem is these drinks and even many of these herbs, they're just, they're pumped up with caffeine and other things that speed the system up. Well, if the body is in a sickened state or a damaged state and you're trying to speed it up, what are you doing? It's like taking, a horse that's exhausted and beating him with the reins, trying to make him do another lap. It doesn't really make sense. So what we chose to do is look at the energy systems, and the energy systems are built around something called mitochondria. Like example, around each little cell, there's little powerhouses in the cell called mitochondria. Some cells have 1 or 2. You get around the cardiac, sometimes there's upward of cardiac cells maybe have around 5,000 of them in just one cell. So there's trillions of these little guys, little energy nutrients, any energy factories that need nutrients in order to make energy through a process we call oxidative phosphorylation. Big old word, and all that means is the way we make energy. We call it OCPHOS. Now, in doing that, we have to have all these vitamins and minerals and enzymes. They plug into this little conveyor belt of energy in order to take an apple and make it energy. All right. So it's important that these nutrients get in. And the problem is the nutrients aren't getting into most people's body. So if we can get them there, not only will the energy systems become efficient, there are substances in nature that help to rebuild those little power plants. Because every time someone gets sick, someone goes through a crisis, those little energy plants, they die off. COVID, we just got hit by COVID. One of the biggest destroyers of mitochondrial pools that I know of. And that's why people are having these long haul COVID problems, because they can't seem to snap back because their energy systems got destroyed in many cases. So you can't just speed that up with caffeine and think you're going to get better. You have to rebuild what was destroyed. Then you have to recharge them. Then you have to fire off those systems again so they can keep making energy. So the nano energy, we have things like PQQ, CoQ10, ALA, 2 of the most important B vitamins, 1 and 3, that help really catalyze those movements. And so when we put these ingredients together in a formula, along with like a pig nodule, which helps the oxidative balance, it starts to literally do what I was explaining to you. Can you imagine being able to rebuild your mitochondrial pools back? Being able to recharge your batteries? That's like taking your cell phone, getting a new battery, then charging it up. How much better is that cell phone going to work? So despite whatever we do, if we're going to try to heal, if the rate of damage exceeds the rate of repair, that's sickness. If you don't have enough energy to repair fast enough, is the rate you're tearing down, you're going to stay sick. And that's why you see so many people in these chronic disorders, right? So what if we could enhance the energy by fixing the problem, not stimulating, but fixing those sick systems, getting them where we have plenty of energy now, so the rate of repair could exceed the rate of damage. Do you see? So when you're sick and you're damaged, time's working against you because you're going to keep getting worse. What we're trying to do is get time working in your favor, working for you. So now your rate of repair is exceeding the rate of damage. Now you're healing. So in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, you're going to continue to improve. So now time is working for you. That's what we've managed to do in that little bottle that looks so simple. The science behind it is highly advanced and very targeted.
And how quickly do you start noticing changes when it comes to taking something like nano energy?
Yeah, and literally, when you spray it in your mouth, it's already going through the membranes and it's going into the bloodstream. Literally, there are many folks, I can sense it myself, within the first, a few minutes, a minute or two, I'm already noticing, I can already sense a change. Now, it's not like I hit it and all of a sudden all my problems are gone. It's not that simple. But you can tell when you've done something and it's really good. for your body. Your body lets you know right away, oh, that was a good thing we did there. Well, I get that all the time. People say it almost gives me like a sense of well-being. Absolutely, because it's exactly what it's doing. It's like spraying. And you remember in the old days, they'd spray a little ether in the carburetor, boom, to make that, make that thing fire and get that engine going again. Well, it's kind of like ether in the carburetor. So you get that little short burst. It's not a sustained one that takes, weeks and sometimes months to heal. But let me tell you, when you've been feeling deprived of energy and you get that little fresh breath of air, I'm telling you, you can sense it, and people usually sense it right away. We're not doing it for that because, we know it's a long-term process over, sometimes weeks and months before those heal. But isn't it nice to know that you get some results usually within, the first day, 2 days, even you're starting to notice it.
So what about Nano Essentials? How does that differ from the energy?
Yeah, so the Nano Essential, remember, there are certain vitamins and minerals. They call them essential vitamins, essential minerals, and they're in nature. Your body can't make them. So you have to have them to live, okay? So it's not a choice if you get them. It's just how much will you get? Because if you take, real simple, you fertilize a plant and then don't fertilize another plant, look at those plants in about 2 months, and that one that's fertilized is going to way out flourish the one that's not. So when we give the body the nutrients that it has to have, these aren't optional. When we give it in the doses that we need with nearly 100% absorption and immediate into the cells, then all of the things we just talked about begin to come back to life, because those vitamins and minerals and nutrients and coenzymes, those run all of the functions of our body.
So really, this is one of those opportunities that you have a chance, because you've seen from patients and people you've talked to, that because we're already either having so many issues, or we just don't know how to, or we choose not to do things correctly, this is going to help counteract our poor decisions.
Yeah, exactly. And I've told, people this many times. This isn't, permission to just eat like a maniac. It's just not, and eat terrible. But I'm telling you, we've all been there when we've just had those times when we couldn't resist the food in front of us because it was too good, even though we knew it wasn't good for us. We've all had times that we were stressed and we didn't eat, exercise, and do the things we should do. Some of us for years. So when we put these back in the body, yeah, sure, it starts catching you up pretty quick. Usually I treat a lot of deficient folks. And when you fix those deficiencies, let me tell you something, if you're dehydrated, you feel weak, very weak. You drink some water and all of a sudden you start feeling better. Now, some people will say, well, gosh, you had fatigue and water made you better. Yeah, sometimes it can be the simplest things. Well, I see that when you start putting those essential vitamins and minerals and nutrients and coenzymes and even enzymes, you put those back in the system with even a nice array of aminos. Oh my goodness, people like those plants, they just start flourishing. Now, we're not looking and going into specific diseases and disorders. I'm telling you, wherever cells are sick, that's where we name disease. If you get too many cells dying and they're sick in the liver, we call it liver disease. Get too many cells in the kidney that are sick and dying, we call it kidney disease. So, my job has always been trying to make the cells in the entire body as healthy as we can. And to me, that's as good as it gets.
Well, I feel like so many of us are used to kind of just existing either with pain or being tired. I feel like our adrenals are all shot because we're just trying to take something to keep us going and up. I'm not even sure sometimes if people understand, I'm saying this even personally, what good health is supposed to feel like.
Yeah, one of the biggest things, if I could name one thing that I hear more than any other comment about when people start taking these nanonutrients are, I didn't even realize how bad I was feeling until I felt like I should. Because we ask them, they're like, no, I feel pretty good. Then when all of a sudden they feel the energy that their body was designed to have and all those little things and quirks start healing up, they go, oh my goodness, I forgot it had been so many years since they had felt good. So we hear that one often. And I will use that kind of as a segue into the next product I want to talk about, because it's the kind of the third spoke. There's the energy, obviously, and there's the essentials. You have to have those to flourish. But the process of breaking your body down, the process of your cells dying, comes from a term called oxidation. Oxidative, effects, reactive oxygen species, we call it in science. And so what happens is, if I take an apple, that same apple, and I cut it, it'll be nice and yellow on the inside. If I leave it set on that table, what does it do? It turns brown. Now, is that a good change or a bad change? That's a bad change. That's oxidation. That's what's happening to your cells every time you eat, every time you drink, and watch this, every time you breathe and exercise. So all of those things are healthy, but if you're oxidizing and you don't have an antioxidant system that's able to keep up with that demand, watch this, you can be an athlete thinking you're eating and doing all the right things, but you can be getting sicker. See it all the time because the oxidative systems have become damaged. So the Inflaox product has some of the 5 of the strongest anti-inflammatory antioxidant compounds we know in nature, with nearly 100% absorption. And when you start bringing these things in, things like mTOR pathways, things like NF-kappa B, NRF2, all these things that you've heard, interleukin-6, all of these things that you've heard that can cause inflammatory responses, we up the NRF2 level, which puts NF-kappa B, the Hulk of inflammation, puts him back in his cage. Helps stimulate, in some cases, creates autophagy through inhibiting mTOR pathways. What does all that bioscience mean and biochemical science mean? It means at the end of the day, not me, but research demonstrates that these compounds in natures can slow the effects of oxidation and inflammation. Because if cells damage, they inflame. You roll your ankle, it swells. If you get an injury, it swells. So damage produces inflammation. So oxidative damage creates inflammation. So we have to stop this oxidation inflammation, because oxidation is just another word for aging. So in a way, I guess we could call it anti-aging because it's antioxidant, but it's not just as simple as taking some antioxidants. We need to do that. We need to eat all our colored, fruits and vegetables. All those are full of antioxidants, but we have to make sure the system is intact. And sometimes people are so inflamed that it's kind of like squirting a water hose on a forest fire. It's not that it's not helping by eating, but sometimes you have to take concentrated nutrients with a bigger hose to be able to put those fires out. And you have to do that sometimes for even weeks and months. And you have to go, like example on the Nano products, you'll see it says take 8 squirts in the morning and 8 squirts in the, you may have to do, in some people, 16 up to 3 times a day if you are really super inflamed. You see what I mean? It could vary on individuals. The bottom line is, if you put the right things at the right place at the right time, the right things happen.
Well, and this is, when you talked about how quickly it gets into your body, that's unbelievable. And you were actually just visiting, was it the manufacturing plant recently?
Yeah, our plant. I go in the lab sometimes. So I was in the lab because we're always making improvements. Okay, and one of them actually was on a flavor that we're working at. But in seeing these compounds, when you take them from nature and you break them down through the entire nano process, even the weighing out of those things, there can't be any kind of movement or breeze in the room that'll affect the micrometry. When you're balancing it out, you can't even put your hand on the table clear at the other end. It's very sensitive, very highly advanced, and the technology is amazing. So it's kind of funny. So I call it's like space age technology, what we're doing. But I'm telling you, the effects and the benefits are just amazing. To say the least.
Well, I know that we're going to be talking a lot more as you have got some different things coming up as far as nanotechnology is concerned. I just felt like it was important to start a jumping off point and let people know like what's happening and what you've poured everything into lately. This is really a game changer for people who are either wanting a change or who are already, you and I were talking about this, who are ready to take it to the next level.
Exactly. And just picture this. Spraying some specialized nutrients that are nearly 100% absorbable into the system, just to help with, improving the energy systems and rebuilding them, to stop the oxidative inflammatory processes that are breaking us all down and giving us the nutrients back like fertilizer on plants to build us back. I don't think it's really rocket science. People can do the math, what that's going to be like and show up. Your hair is going to be better. Your skin's going to be better. Your energy is going to be better. I can tell you right now, I've had this talk with you before about exercise. I was really just trying to do this extreme exercise and in the energetics program I developed. And I was just wondering, could you go an hour and a half with no breaks? Could it happen without taking any breaks, taking everything to extreme exhaustion? And the answer was I couldn't do it. But after I got the nanos and I started hitting those right at the ends of those sets, now I do it. And so all I can tell you, I have many people now that are using the nutrients. And one of the biggest raves and crazes we get are people who are athletes. And when they take this before and right after, like example, we're avid tennis players, we do 3-hour boot camps out in 100-degree weather. Well, after that first hour, man, you're sapped. We'll go hit those, boom, we get double barrel. We have them in both hands. And we go right back out on the course. We're repleted. We've rebuilt energy systems. That next hour feels just like the first hour. Our energy's back. And we do that again, even in the third hour. When we walk off the court, we replenish again. So all day we don't feel tired. So you see, you can balance your nutrients. It gives you a little bit of control. And at the same time, you get amazing benefits.
Well, if anyone who's watching sees this later, because obviously it'll live on social media, where can people go and find Nano Energy, Nano Essentials, Nano Inflaox?
Well, like I said, my name is Dr. Hannen, Hannen. It's drhannen.com. Very simple. You can go to our website. If you're looking for books in the market, you can type in Healing by Design, or you can type in Stop the Pain. You'll find me there. And Dr. Hannen, drhannen.com. That's the web address.
Well, there are a lot more lives to come, a lot more information we're going to be giving out, and we're always updating every single day with great insight information, Hannenisms that you can learn about those too on his social media, on Instagram, LinkedIn, now YouTube and Facebook. So thank you for taking the time to do this live. I'm glad we got this figured out. Next time we're going to level it up just like with Nano, and I'm going to be on a real computer.
Yeah. No, that was fun, Kara. Thanks so much for insightful questions.
Okay, well, I'll talk to you later. Thanks,
right.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.